What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to go over some of the Cardfight Vanguard lore for overdress. So, we've already have an idea of what happened back then and 3,000 years into the future of what made these 5-6 nations now. But we actually have a chronological table of Cray in term glossary that I just found out a couple days ago. And really, I just wanted to take some time, and it actually has some bullet points that are a little more detailed just to show you what exactly happened to where it started to where it is now. So, let's dive right into it. So as you can see, we actually had this posted in January 22nd, 2021 by Neo Arcadia. Thanks for that person who were actually doing the job for this. And then of course this team that helped out too. So where it leaves off, it says, "What's up, Cray? Since Chrono Dragon punched Geese so hard, he got deleted across the entire space continuum." So this is a reference from where G-Era left off. For Chrono Shindo, it was the main character, and he had Chrono Dragon as his avatar. At the end of that series, there was an evil deity called Geese that was trying to take over the world. It was basically powered behind the void as well, so a lot of that lore will kind of make sense as we go about it. But after that, Chrono and his friends actually won and defeated Geese and everything. So this is where it actually leaves off. So this is like before the reboot, anything like that. This is like the original story from G-Era, where Chrono was there, and then moving forward. So in the 2100s, the new Holy Age. The deity Geese is obliterated and disappears, and the Zero Dragons return to being Cray elementals and become one with Cray once more. So for those who don't know, the Zero Dragons actually appear around this time arc. And so these were a very big deal, and funny enough, they were nation-based too. So now that everything's kind of like going back to like calming down into that era of peace, this is really what's happening in that transition. So the next part is the divinity Messiah returns the source of all divinity, Cray's idea, and having completed its mission. The divinity Messiah foresees the future to come and leaves with it the Messiah's secret text and on the wandering planet Brent. So this is something that where even the Messiah basically kind of just goes back to slumber somehow, but also sees something in the future but leaves something behind. So what is that thing in the future that it foresaw? So 400 years later, that's a lot, right? 2500s to 3500s, the Godless Age. Like that itself seems pretty morbid. The age of no gods, right? The enemy that opposes Cray's power of destiny, the unstoppable void, suddenly attacks Cray once more out of nowhere. So for those who don't know, the void is like an evil entity. This is like something before technically the history of time, and it isn't necessarily defeated once and for all. So this has been in the original series, for example, with Aquaforce, with Leon Soryu. He was controlled by the Void, and the Void was trying to make a comeback to destroy the whole world. We saw it with Lean Joker, with the Starvaders too, and then of course with Geese and so on. So this thing keeps coming back, and a little more into the lore, it actually just doesn't die. So even though you have defeated it with your friends and everything, with the power of your avatar, the void will come back eventually. And so it's like a temporary piece. And so during this time, this void comes again and attacks out of nowhere. It seems like in the series there was some kind of like foretelling that the void was coming like soon, and I guess in this case nobody saw it coming. And so the source of all divinity, the Cray's idea, a divinity without will, ceased functioning in order to escape the threat of the void. So it already sounds like they couldn't really escape this whole attack from the void. And then it goes into more depth with saying that without the power of destiny having been lost due to being pushed to its limits, even the pages of the Akashic Book turn blank, bringing forth the era that would be known as the Godless Age, an age of unanswered prayers, where prayers have no meaning. And it's like, wait, what? So the Akashic Book, if I'm pronouncing correctly, is actually a book that keeps track of all the past that's happened. With Stride, people and units, or I should say units, were able to stride back in time and in the future and so on. That can temporarily mess with the book, and the book's pages would alter, and it might be unreadable too as well. So this book is very special and very powerful because it actually has the history present of what's happened in this timeline. And what's weird too is that it turned blank. So like, what does that mean? Like, can we not see even the future, or is the past just like gone or something? It's kind of weird. And it talks about being of an age of unanswered prayers, and it's just like, when prayers have no meanings, that's crazy. You know, me being spiritual, like prayers are a very big thing, you know, and it's just like, holy crap, you know, you do your best to pray, and then all of a sudden it's unanswered. And so it's like, this is from the 2500s to the 1200s. It's called the Godless Age, and so it's just like, that's really scary. So going into more, we're still in the same time lapse. So the clans of Dimension Police and Nova Grapplers and Link Joker, heeding the warnings from the Messiah's Epeta, if that's how I'm pronouncing it, come to an agreement on what they must do. Reforming their nation and renaming it Brent Gate, so this is how it becomes Brent Gate, and decide to become the force to resist and oppose Void, even though they now lack of any sort of blessings in this Godless Age. So the three clans, Dimension Police, Nova Grapplers, and Link Joker, already recognize this threat and actually come together as forming the new nation Brent Gate that we're knowing with the new changes. So this is kind of cool. So they joined forces and they know they want to resist and oppose the Void. So they're all in favor, like, hey, we need to stop this thing, right? And then due to the disappearance of all the gods, the Ketter engine that helped United Sanctuary prosper since it was founded ceased to function. So this is for, you know, all the Paladin clans, the OTT, the Genesis, and of course the Angel Feather, and now all of a sudden the Ketter engine just stopped working. So this is something that the United Sanctuary depended on. I didn't know this. I actually just learned about this too. I was like, oh, that's already cool. And a little more on this, where at the end of countless disasters, both natural and man-made, such as war, famine, plague, and death, along the civil war of internal strife, the royal family that serves as a symbol of the nation, the House of Burden of Arden, that gave birth to the hero of Alfred, named Alfred, eventually fell. And so the whole Alfred line just died off from royal paladins and stuff like that. So if you're a royal fan, you're like, wow, that's pretty intense, because there's what's the word I'm looking for? With kings and knights and all that kind of stuff, there's a lineage that is kept throughout the years, and now it just fell. And like, wow, the girl's Alfred, right? With United Sanctuary turning into a failed state, the justice and order, the medical knowledge that country stood for, collapsed and disappeared, causing the chaos to spread further across the planet in a chain reaction. So United Sanctuary, I guess, is one of those nations that we're seen to be almost like the most successful, the most like branched out nation compared to all the other nations around the planet Cray. And so you can kind of see where it's like, oh my god, like one of the biggest nations just like fell. And then all the other nations just start like reacting, and that's what it means about like a chain reaction of chaos that spread around the world. With no common enemy in the form of geese and the symbol of harmony and peace, Messiah being gone, and the inhabitants of planet Cray fall into a long dark age of an unending war with one another. So this is kind of sad in the sense that, you know, stuff is happening, they're panicking, and with Messiah not being there and geese not being a symbol of a common enemy, they have no idea what's going on. And this is where they say they have a long dark age of a war with one another. So the nations, or even within the nation, starts attacking each other and stuff like that. So that's not really cool, and it's kind of dark. And then it even goes to the next point where it says, after 300 years, United Sanctuary completely collapses as a nation due to its unending internal strife and civil war, and loses most of its territory, and the land turns barren, and then there's no divine blessings left to protect them as well. And so you can see United Sanctuary is just like literally falling apart to where it's almost nothing left, a barren wasteland basically. And then the survivors of these unending crises build a new nation in the sky on a floating island they dubbed Ketter, using the Ketter engine as a power source, although it still can't be used to see the future. So whatever or whoever was left, the survivors, decided to build something in the sky away from all the madness, I guess, and all the barrenness. And they use this Ketter engine, still apparently has enough power to actually sustain their new society, but obviously they can't use it to see the future and all that kind of stuff. Just like OTT is like a branch or a division that can see into the future as well and predict their fortunes and everything. So this Ketter engine is still useful to them in creating their new society. And I think this is where we'll see Ketter Sanctuary happen. But again, we're still in this time lapse. And then those living on Ketter, dubbing themselves the people of the skies, declare they are the chosen ones of the very sky itself, and found a new nation called Ketter Sanctuary that cuts off diplomacy and contact with other nations. So this just became its own like almost self-sustaining utopia. And they're like, you know what, you guys got it. We don't need your problems. We're trying to figure our stuff out, and then we're gonna build our own society here. The fact that they dub themselves the people of the sky sounds a little egotistic, I guess, in a way. But it depends on the perspective, and I'm not sure how the writers were intending to have this bullet point come across, so I'm not sure. But if you like, when I think of people in the sky, if you guys ever played Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, there's like those bird people that are in the sky, and typically they have that more smarter, they're more knowledgeable, and they're more wise and everything. And so I'm not sure if they're coming from across that point as well. So going into the next point, the loss of divine blessing also caused food supply and production to plummet, meaning even the clan Neo-Nectar can no longer supply enough food to match the world's needs. So I guess Neo-Nectar was one of the clans that were responsible of actually providing food for the entire world of Cray. Here in the real world, we have farms and everything that we all protect and sustain, so that way everybody around the world is actually fed, especially in certain countries. Obviously there's hunger and everything, don't get me wrong, but in an analogy, Neo-Nectar was that, basically providing food and supplies to the Cray, and now they can't even produce enough to actually supply the whole world. So what happens when you don't have enough food and anything to go with it? And obviously people are gonna die, at least that's what I think. And so in this case, units are gonna die or something. And so that's what we start seeing next, is actually the prestigious Academy of Great Nature continues to decline as the historic nation of Zoo splinters into various smaller self-sustaining nation states. So now with Great Nature, they had the prestigious academy they've always had. That's why they have professors and teachers and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. But as you notice, they were affected too, and now they're becoming into some smaller nation states. That is not a good sign, right? That means your whole country nation is like starting to break into its own like little things. It almost reminds me of like Naruto, where it has like the villages hidden in the leaf, or the village hidden in the mist, and something like that. But they're like in the land of the fire or something like that. So something like that's happening backwards. But even as the academy's influence wanes, there are those who commit their lives to the pursuit of knowledge, and one of them is the sage Stokeia, comes upon the truth of the age of unanswered prayers. So there is somebody that is willing to become a hero in a way, where they're trying to figure out what is going on and let's just come out of this. So the great sage Stokeia develops the Wise Cube, a sentient artifact that observes and studies the fragmentary remains of the divine blessings across Cray. So this person is very smart and develops some kind of thing that is called the Wise Cube, and it seems to be one of the key things to help get the remaining blessings that they need from Cray. It seems that Vanguard, the units, will rely on some form of a blessing from maybe something from Cray itself or from like Messiah, to really give them strength to really push off the void. At least that's what I'm thinking. And then of course the next bullet point, following the death of the sage Stokeia, those who follow in his teachings unite under the Wise Cube and form the nation Stokeia name in his honor. So Stokeia was a male, and apparently he had passed away. It doesn't say how. I'm curious how that happened. I'm not sure if it was old age or somebody killed him. I don't know. And that's how the nation Stokeia became. And the next bullet point talks about the vast majority of the clans from the old nations of Zoo and Megalonalka join under this banner, united by a common cause and leading the birth of a vast nation. So this is where we see both like Grand Blue and Aqua Force coming to the Zoo Nation, forming this new Stokeia Nation. And this is what happens. It's really, Stokeia was somebody that they saw as respectable, and now they passed away, and they have this Wise Cube from him, and now under one banner they join forces. So this is where it happens, and it goes into a little more in depth. Due to the decline of magic, the various clans of Dark Zone splinter various smaller nations and states as a result of their loss of power. So now you can see even Dark Zone starting to be affected. Among them, the clan the loss was most was Greer Chronicle, having lost their power to travel through time, space, and parallel dimensions in this Godless Age. The Zodiac Time Beasts enter a deep slumber, entrusting their power to a single hero who detects the faintest spark of the future, a spark of hope that all others have given up. And so, before I go on, this is the Dark Zone part where we have seen Garrett Chronicle being very involved with time travel, with Stride, obviously, right? And this is where they've lost their power. And now they're going into a deep slumber, the Zodiac Time Beast specifically. And they seem to have recognized the hero, and they haven't gotten into depth who that is, that this hero may be the only hope that they have. And so the next part, it goes into discovering the spark of hope lies deep within Dragon Empire. The hero founds the Federation of Dark State, founds the Federation of Dark States, align themselves with those inside Dragon Empire who seek to protect the spark of the future. So it seems like Darkstone is working with Dragon Empire now, where they found that somewhere the spark of hope lies within Dragon Empire. So I wonder if it has to do anything with that egg. Just like we've seen in the trailers, it's like, okay, this egg has finally hatched or something like that. What does it even mean? This is basically Darkstone given the, like, this is our last hope. Dragon Empire, like, let's get this going. And it goes into more like Dragon Empire, the oldest nation on Cray and home of the oldest race of all, dragons. There alone, the priestesses continue to pray, as they have seen in memorial. Endlessly praying, it is said that once their prayers are answered, the slumbering egg will finally hatch, and with it, a new future of prosperity will be born. So they're literally putting all their eggs in one basket, like of a funny pun. And this egg is really the hope that they have, and so they're praying and praying and praying to hope they have their prayers answered. And it still goes into this next time era, which they're doing all this work, and it's called the 4500s, the Godless Age. So even during this time, they're still not seeing any actual results of hope, which is a long time. And in the 4500s, they say that the total spatial temporal isolation, the past cannot be seen, the future can no longer be predicted. The power of stride to cross other worlds or other dimensions or other times have been lost. So just we saw Greer Chronicle fall and have the Zodiac time beast fall into slumber. Now we're seeing that the actual space-time continuum doesn't allow for stride anymore, and that's kind of a big deal. Like being able to stride, all the clans were able to do that, and now you can't even, you're cut off and everything, and you can't even see the future or past because they had the ability to do so. Like that's kind of scary. And in conclusion, we come to the 5000s, the Chakrabarti divine era. I hope I pronounced that correctly. The priestess's prayers finally reach Earth, and as a result, the deity known as Chakrabarti divine dragon hatches. So this is where we saw in the trailer this dragon hatching from an egg or something, or the eyes coming out of the egg. I'm not sure if it's actually Nirvana itself, but at least from this is where we are now left off. So as you can see, this is the 5000s, and it started off with all the way up here to the 2100s. So basically the 3,000 year span. Just like I mentioned here, just a little bit of like terms and glossary. The Messiah, the creator deity, is known as Messiah, the deity, the Cray that governs harmony. It creates new laws and reality of Planet Cray, which was once the world where only science existed. It's paired the existence with Geese, so when Geese was annihilated, Messiah's role in the world ended and rejoined the greater divinity known as Cray's idea. So Messiah and Geese are actually together. It's good and evil. It's one of those poetic things, like if one is died or passed on, the other one also dies or passed on or slumbers. And Geese is the god of destruction, right? And so it's governed the destruction and is gathered en masse by the void, and it's paired up with with the apostles, changing the name's course of history, but ultimately the core is still the same. And Geese has been the source of many wars and conflicts too, with the War of the Zero Dragons. And we see in G era where we see Valeos, for example, fighting Geese. And it was a time where Geese was already trying to destroy Cray once before. So it has happened more than once. And even units like the Apostles, like Valeos, actually joined forces or either were killed off. It's either you join me or you die, that kind of thing. And the Void, of course, again, like I said, it's existed before history itself. The Void always tries to swallow the world that it come into existence, trying to return them to nothing. And that is pretty dark. The Void attempts to break the world apart, tearing it asunder, twist into violate its fundamental laws, and ultimately destroy it. The act of returning everything to the Void doesn't happen just once, it keeps happening until the world is actually destroyed in its entirety. That's what I'm talking about, that the Void does not die and it keeps coming back. So, and it says right here, whether it be the Via, the Geese, the Clan Aquaphors, or even the seed of the Void known as Lane Joker. And going down to, at the end, the Akashic Book, that's where I mentioned it's the summation of the history that has happened up to the present. And if it has a little blurb that says, if history is distorted for some reason or the past is rewritten, the pages can be turned to and read upon, I guess. It might have been typo. And the book itself has the power to transcend time and space, but it is said that with the start of the Chakrabarti divine era, the book no longer functions. So the book 3,000 years later doesn't function anymore to actually be able to transcend time. So there's a lot of things going on, and what's really cool is that we're going to start off where these guys have left off. So I'm curious how the lore will continue on. And if you guys like this kind of video, let me know. I actually found this really fascinating too. I know there's people that care about the game but not necessarily the lore behind it, and then I think they're actually making an effort to make the lore a thing again. And if you've read any lore from like Limit Break era or G era, you realize that all the units that you see, the avatars that you have, are actually connected in some shape or form or manner. It's all story based and everything, you know, and so that's very exciting too. So with that, this video is already kind of long, but I just wanted to show this off. Like the video if you guys like that. Comment down below. Maybe you guys know something about this that I don't know or want to speculate. Go ahead. Share it with your friends and subscribe. See ya, amigos. Bye.